At precisely 1740 Eastern on June 21st, 2025, a 30-iron-pound spear of steel and high explosives ripped through the dark skies above Iran, screaming down at 700 miles per hour. It would take just 43 seconds to hit. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, a bunker buster built to crush 200 feet of concrete and rock, was on its way to carve a smoking crater where Fordow's nuclear facility once stood. The fortress, buried so deep that normal bombs were worthless, was about to learn why Americans don't get free healthcare. How did this bomb get here? It's a tale of the most precisely executed military operation in over 2 decades. 18 hours earlier, on the hot tarmac of Whiteman Air Force Base, ground crews swarmed a black-winged Phantom in the dark. This wasn't just any aircraft. It was one of only 19 operational B-2 Spirits on Earth, each worth $2.1 billion, more expensive than their weight in gold. Crew chiefs rattled through pre-flight checklists, double-checking the 14 GBU-57 bunker busters secured inside rotary launchers, topping off 180,000 pounds of jet fuel and ensuring the stealth radars were silent as the grave. At 1 minute past midnight, the first B-2 Spirit rolled down the 12th on 400-foot runway, engines whispering but powerful enough to push 336,500 pounds of war machine into the night sky. The pilot pulled back, keeping a shallow climb to hide from infrared sensors, even from friendly eyes in the sky. Not all of these bombers were heading for Iran. 7 B-2s ghosted east toward the target, while another wave flew west toward the Pacific, a brilliant deception. Russian and Chinese satellites tracked the westbound Spirits toward Guam, stirring diplomatic noise, while the real strike force slipped unnoticed into the Atlantic darkness. Crossing the Atlantic was the first challenge. The B-2's range with internal fuel and tanks was around 4,500 miles, but Missouri to Iran and back was over 14,000 miles. The math didn't work without refueling. At 4 a.m. somewhere over the mid-Atlantic, they linked with tankers, performing a high-wire act in the sky, connecting a refueling probe at night in turbulence, threading a needle on a mechanical bull at 400 knots. The boom operator extended the refueling arm while the B-2 held perfect formation, taking in 1,000 pounds of fuel per minute. After 2 more refuelings and over 15 hours of flight, the Spirits neared Iraqi airspace. This is where things got interesting. 4 F-22 Raptors appeared like ghosts, scanning 200 miles ahead with their stealth radars while remaining invisible. The lead Raptor pilot checked in with coded brevity that sounded like nonsense to outsiders, but meant the skies were clear. These Raptors were hunters, each armed with air-to-air missiles ready to destroy any Iranian fighter that dared to take off. Behind them, 8 F-35s flew as silent guardians, prepared to join the fight. At 1839 local time, the lead B-2 began its attack run. The GPS targeting system synced with satellites, guiding the bombers to within 5 feet of accuracy. Inside the weapons bay, the rotary launcher rotated, positioning the first bunker buster for its fall. Fordow sat buried beneath 300 feet of mountain and rock, shielded by layers of granite older than human civilization. In a minute, the U.S. military would change the landscape forever. But the B-2s weren't the only strike element in motion that night. 2 hours earlier, at 1700 Eastern, 1,200 miles away, a captain on a submarine, likely the USS Georgia, watched the countdown on his tactical display. The Georgia was no ordinary sub. Once a ballistic missile submarine, it was refitted to launch 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, giving it more firepower than an entire carrier group. At periscope depth, the Georgia was vulnerable. The photonics mast broke the water's surface, visible on radar, but Iran's defenses were looking in the wrong place. The launch wasn't like a video game. When the command came, a gas charge blew the Tomahawk from its canister, launching it like a champagne cork before its rocket ignited, sending it hurtling into the sky. As each missile launched, the Georgia's ballast teams shifted water rapidly to avoid broaching the surface or diving too deep, balancing the submarine in real time. At 16:05 Eastern, the first Tomahawk broke the waves, its rocket booster burning for 12 seconds, pushing it to 550 mph before the jet engine took over. Within 60 minutes, all 30 Tomahawks were airborne, skimming the Earth at 100 feet, guided by radar altimeters and matching satellite images with their live camera feeds. They flew 1,500 miles toward Iran, timing their arrival 30 minutes before the B-2s to wreak havoc on air defenses. As Iranian radars tracked the high-altitude B-2s, the Tomahawks came in low, undetected, ready to smash key facilities. Meanwhile, at 1600 Eastern, a wave of over 60 U.S. aircraft took to the skies in a massive sweep ahead of the bombers. 4 F-22s led at 50,000 feet, followed by F-35s at 35,000, Super Hornets at 25,000, and Growlers with electronic warfare pods humming, flooding Iranian radar screens with ghosts and false signals. Tankers and surveillance aircraft hovered, gathering intelligence, ensuring the strike corridor was sanitized. The F-35s acted as eyes, detecting radar emissions, while Super Hornets, armed with HARM missiles, and Growlers jammed Iranian systems. At 1732, an S-300 battery near Natanz made a fatal mistake, breaking radio silence to track targets. The moment it transmitted, an F-35 detected the signal. A Super Hornet launched a HARM missile, and the Growlers jammed it into confusion. The missile screamed in at Mach 2.5, slamming into the radar, turning a $100 million system into a smoldering wreck. By 1735, 31 HARM missiles had destroyed an equal number of radars and SAM sites. Those still alive went dark, their operators choosing survival over duty as American jamming disrupted communications across military and civilian bands alike. At 1739, the B-2 Spirits approached, flying through a 50-mile-wide corridor cleared for them by the largest coordinated air operation since Iraq. No Iranian missiles fired, no Iranian fighters launched. At 1740, the lead B-2 opened its bomb bay doors. It was showtime. The first GBU-57 fell into the night, briefly hanging in the thin air before gravity seized it. The 30,000-pound bomb dropped from 45,000 feet, tail fins deploying, GPS lock confirmed, falling at 700 miles per hour. The pilot felt the aircraft jump slightly as the load released. The bomb would hit with 1.5 billion joules of energy, the force of a freight train smashing a wall, driving through concrete and granite, unstoppable. At 1740 and 43 seconds, the first bomb struck, creating a localized quake as it burrowed deep into the earth. It didn't detonate on impact, but continued down, counting its depth until it reached the precise moment to explode. Then, 300 pounds of explosives went off, creating a 30-foot wide underground cavity, sending shockwaves through the rock, turning concrete to dust. And that was just the beginning. 12 more bunker busters followed, each drop calculated to maximize overlapping shockwaves, using the mountain's own strength against itself. From the ground, it looked like meteors raining down, flashes of light followed by rolling thunder. At Natanz, the plan differed. Only 2 bombs were needed there, but they had to be timed perfectly, spaced to avoid interference, yet precise enough to devastate their targets. Meanwhile, the Tomahawks approached their final phase. After flying 2 hours and burning hundreds of pounds of fuel, they descended toward their targets, making final corrections using onboard cameras, locking onto buildings identified by years of intelligence. At 19:05 Eastern, the first Tomahawk struck, hitting a hexafluoride storage building, creating a toxic cloud that rendered the facility unusable. Over the next 45 seconds, 29 more missiles struck, each finding its mark. The B-2s turned for home, fuel reserves calculated perfectly, leaving behind burning ruins. In just 25 minutes, 3 Iranian nuclear facilities lay shattered. Not a single missile had been fired at coalition aircraft. Not a single Iranian fighter had dared to take off. The element of surprise was complete. The execution was flawless. In under half an hour, the US military accomplished what decades of negotiations and threats could not. Iran's nuclear ambitions were turned to rubble, and the world had just witnessed the most precise, overwhelming display of military power in the modern era.